Do you fancy throwing soup over historic works of art? Perhaps you'd like to smash the glass that protects Magna Carta. Or maybe you just want to block the entire busiest motorway in Britain from being able to move. Well, if you are, you might be a member of Just Stop Oil. And 6 members of Just Stop Oil have just had their sentences for this sort of criminal activity be reduced on appeal. What on earth is going on? My name's Tom Harwood and this is GBN Originals. Now, Roger Hallam is a man who is notorious in environmental activism. He set up so many groups, from Extinction Rebellion to Just Stop Oil, and has been planning so much disruption over the course of recent years. He has some fairly wacky views about what climate change may do to the world, suggesting that climate change might bring about mass famine and really quite gruesome situations that I don't think are appropriate to get into now. Let's just say the sort of activity that he believes people will get up to in this post-apocalyptic society doesn't really bear thinking about. To be clear, these are people who have fairly extreme interpretations of what may happen with regard to the climate. And they believe that their extreme interpretations of what might happen justifies extreme action. Indeed, if you believed that there would be billions of people dying, that there would be mass famine, that food would run out, that people would do unspeakable things to other people as a result, what would you do? Well, I suppose if people have that sort of mindset, then smashing a few windows, throwing things over precious paintings, or indeed blocking roads, blocking ambulances, blocking people getting about, seems like perhaps justifiable in their minds. Is this why they have been so adamant to appeal their sentences? Quite possibly. Is this why they're so unrepentant towards the action that they've taken? Highly likely. Well, upon appeal, there have been 6 Just Stop Oil protesters who have had their sentences reduced by the courts. Yes, Roger Hallam himself is no longer going to be imprisoned for 5 years, but 4 years instead. There are some significant questions to ask about this, given that these are people who have been relatively unrepentant about the crimes they committed. There are significant questions to ask here because we know that the primary purpose of incarceration, of keeping people separate from the rest of society, is to prevent harm coming upon society. And when someone who has put harm upon society, who has disrupted the daily lives of ordinary people, and frankly, most importantly, who is utterly unrepentant and a repeat offender, well, clearly, prison is the best place for those sorts of people. It will stop them doing what they do again. It will protect you, me, all of the rest of us in this country. But we'll be protected for 1 year less under this appeal for people like Roger Hallam. And there are big questions to ask about in whose interest are the courts working. Are the courts working in the interest of these people who call themselves protesters, who perhaps are better described as vandals, or are they working in the interests of the people of the United Kingdom, the working people of Britain, who are trying to get about with their daily lives without having eco-violent protesters disrupt, dislodge, and frankly also make criminal damage against so many elements in our society? To what extent should these original rulings been upheld? Well, clearly the courts disagree. There have been commutions for 6 Just Stop Oil members, although it is worth saying that the activist Phoebe Plummer, who hurled soup over the sunflower painting, the famous sunflower painting by Vincent van Gogh, well, she has had her sentence upheld. No reduction or commution for her. And I think it's at this point that we should sit back and think about what actually is the implication for this sort of action. We haven't just seen Just Stop Oil vandalise buildings, smash windows, attack artwork, block roads. We're also seeing other action groups follow in their footsteps. Palestine Action, for example, sprayed paint against a Cambridge college, an ancient historic Grade 1 listed bit of architecture. That, of course, is criminal damage. And once we sort of have a society where this is seen as more accepted, once we have a society where people who commit this sort of criminal damage get their sentences reduced, what sort of messages does that send to those who might want to do exactly the same? Has the barrier against people committing mindless acts of violence or vandalism got that bit lower? You may notice now when walking into the great museums of this country, the great art galleries, we never used to have metal detectors. You never used to have such a stringent ticketing system. And yet, today, that's what we face. If you want to go into the National Gallery in London, a year ago, you could just walk in. Now, I'm afraid you're going to have to queue. Why? People like Phoebe Plummer. Yes, it's the action of Just Stop Oil that has made all of our lives just that bit worse. Not just on the day that they are intending on doing their criminal damage, not just on the day that they block that road so that that child can't get to their parents' bedside as they die in hospital, so that groom can't get to the wedding with his wife, so that that ambulance can't get the patient to where they are needed to go. Not just that. Not just what happens then on that specific day, but the moral hazard that is created for the next day and the next and every ensuing day. As the restrictions on our liberties become more because people behave more lawlessly, as our ability to walk into or around great scientific interest sites, great historical sites, that becomes restricted. Well, how much can we think about what people like those activists in Just Stop Oil have done? How much do we have to thank them for this new, more curtailed society in which we live? And of course, if these people are getting lesser sentences, well, how much worse will that make everything around it for the rest of us? Big questions to ask, but today on GB News we sat down with a barrister who has some pretty strong opinions on the appeals process in this case and what frankly might have to change.
Joining us now is Barrister Philip Taylor. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Philip. What do you make of this? Why have their sentences been reduced and is it the right decision?
I'm very unhappy that the decisions made by the original court have now been reduced, because the problem we really have here is that the court that hears the evidence makes the decision. What we've now got is a decision by a higher court on appeal where they have reduced sentences. It happens on a very regular basis, and my concern is that when they actually reduce sentences in this way, it's just a wonderful opportunity for a defence barrister to seek a nice appeal. And I don't like it at all. And I'm sure the public would like to be protected from the people who carry out these activities.
Public would agree with you, but I know I've spoken to so many lawyers, indeed legal professionals, legal scholars, who say that, well, one of the most important facets of our judicial system is, number one, its independence, and number two, the right of appeal. It's only in sort of totalitarian countries where you can't appeal a sentence that has been handed down to you.
Well, I accept I do lots of appeals, and I really do like to have the appeal system because judges do make the wrong decision. Not very often. What I'm saying in this case is that we're not really talking about the wrong decision. We're talking about the length of a sentence. My call has been for years to get rid of the Sentencing Guidelines Council and to stop judges being held to do certain things in a certain way. My view is the criminal legal system, the criminal law itself, needs to be looked at very carefully. The purpose is to stop people who are perpetrating these criminal acts from being allowed to do it again. And this is a green light, in my view, for people to say, we can appeal, so we'll get a slightly lower sentence. The reality is that these people have committed serious criminal offences. I'm not in a position to criticise the head of the judiciary, and I'm certainly not doing that as a member of the bar. What I am doing, though, is saying that there has to be an approach which is more sensible, and that is to think about what the public want, because we pay as members of the public for any form of criminal protection in whatever sense it is. And what we should therefore look at is the right sentence for the right crime. And I think we're losing proportionality here, because we are looking at lessening sentences for people who should clearly, in my view, be locked up for a long time, because as soon as they come out, they're having a good laugh and they're going to do it again. And that is not going to protect us from what's been happening in the past.
I mean, Philip, it does seem that a lot of judges make decisions in spite of what the public wants, rather than sort of trying to be in tune with the public mood.
Oh, I think they do. I mean, clearly what you have, I would never dare to suggest that any judge is being told by the Treasury as to what sort of sentence to pass, because it might cost a bit more money if it's a bit longer a sentence. Surely that doesn't happen, although you may think it might. I think the reality is we look at every single case. What I've said, though, is that in every single case, the trial judge makes a decision as to what has happened, and I believe that must be, unless there are very serious issues about the way the trial has been conducted, there should never really be a strong element for an appeal. The problem we have here is that you're making a decision on a tariff system from the Sentencing Guidelines Council, and they give indications. These are people, we don't know who they are, we don't know how they're appointed. I say that's not good enough. The people who make the decisions must be the professionals, and we must think every single time about what the public want, which is a deterrence from criminal activity.
And such an important case in this point, which is these people show no remorse. They've said they're going to do it again. They will do it again. It's one of the most, I suppose...
they tweet about it.
You would think that a custodial sentence here is more justified than virtually anything else. But Philip Taylor, we'll have to leave it there.
Have you ever been into a court and seen the way that some of the defendants now behave? They just laugh.
Entitled.
If they even bother to turn up, they just laugh at what is going on.
Well, Philip Taylor, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to leave it there because we're running out of time, but it was fantastic to have you on. We'll have to speak again. Philip Taylor, barrister there.
Well, what do you make of that? Are the judges just barking up the wrong tree? Or is the right of appeal an important one in our society, even if sometimes it applies to the most odious of people? Big questions there. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun discussing it in the comment section below. But while you do, remember to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel for much more original content.